Hello, welcome to the Sharing Studio. My name is Eileen Trestain. Please join me and my friends as we share our sewing and crafting skills with you in the Sharing Studio. Today, Oliver and I are going to be welcoming our friend Cheri Baur into the studio. Cheri and I have known each other almost 20 years now, since when we worked in the Clark County Historical Museum together. She makes handmade sewing tools that are just beautiful, and she's going to be teaching some of those techniques in the studio in the future. You may hear Oliver playing in the background of her video with his squeaky ball and flappy ears. So, here we go.
Hello, I'm Cheri, and I'm going to give you a tour through my sewing kit. This is my sewing kit. It's a treasure. Used to be able to find these at Joann's. I wish I had one in every color, but I don't. But I treasure this one. I've made some modifications to it so I could store on the top, and quite a bit of storage on the bottom. There's elastic here that are put in with thumbtacks, so I can store a substantial amount of stuff in here and still stay pretty organized. The sides have elastic straps so I can slide things in the on the sides of it. These little things. The most coolest treasure is my housewife, which my friend Eileen raised her eyebrows when I put lids on them. But that's so I can do this with mine. She can't do that with hers. Things fall out. Oh, look at that. So this is a housewife, and this housewife is made of reproduction fabric with my design ideas. There's places for pins, needle, book. If you find tins, they work handy for chalk and beeswax, and we'll talk more about that if you're unfamiliar with the use of beeswax. A little tape measure, a tiny little scissor case, and thread winders, and mine are just wood, but they're handy. You can put several different colors on there, and we use cotton when we sew, so we could be closer to period correct. And that's where the beeswax comes in. You run your thread through the beeswax, makes it last longer, and it doesn't get knotted up as much. So it's what we use when we make period items. All of my items are sewn with cotton thread through beeswax. So what this should probably more look like is this. This was the pattern, but this is the actual vintage one. And during the Civil War, the soldiers would pack these with them so they could sew back on buttons, and they were called housewives. Still called housewives. This is really beautiful. Very bad shape though. This stuffing's coming out. Very cool. And there will be some instructions on those at some point. Here's another needle case. This is friend Kristen came up with this, and I robbed it from her. And this has in between here puddle pad, which is what they put under babies in their bed so that they don't wet the mattress. And then just covered with fabric and beaded on the outside. And then there's various pockets, and I use thread winders for them. Just little things on the side pockets, some beads, pens, needle case, and then close them up with, these are sandwich beads. Is that right? My photographer is my pro also. This was my first project for Fort Vancouver. It's, I think it's called the fish mouth needle case, and it pulls out, and there's needles in here, and you just pull it back in, and it looks kind of like a fish. and it's made of pasteboard covered with fabric and sewn together. And a whole bunch of scissor cases. Lots of them. Seamstresses have to have lots of scissor cases. And we'll eventually get those posted too. Instructions on those. This is another friend's pattern. It actually has a loop that you can wear as a belt and a little pocket here. And just, it's a fun thing to do with spare fabric and keep things handy if you're working an event. This is a pen wiper. So the old pens of yesteryear were dip pens, and then you would write and you would blot them. And this is just a very simple pin cushion with leaves in the middle to blot your pen. This is a jewelry case. It could be a sewing kit. It's just an accordion. So in this case I use silk. You want to use something very, very thin so it doesn't bulk up here. But we'll have that pattern available to you too. It's kind of tricky to figure out. I had to disassemble one that I had found and figure it out. But I have the pattern and I'm happy to share it. This is something I made recently. They're called etuis. They're little sewing kits or big sewing kits. Oftentimes they're square with a square lid. I chose not to do that because this project was for an event or for a craft with people that don't have skills or time, a lot of skills or time. It's kind of rude. But I came up with this and it went over really well. And I found a little ring. You can find these in the fabric or the upholstery section of fabric stores. And made little knots for each string that goes up there, and it stays shut unbelievably. We will probably be making videos on how to do that too. This was actually the one that we made for the craft. They're 4 with a square on the bottom, triangle, same things that you would find in a square version. Just use your creativity. And then we have these crab clamshells. Clamshells, they're called several different things, but basically they're just a shape that are all sewn together except for one spot, and then you can put items in between. And they can look like this, which is many sides. Let's see, that looks like 6 sides. This one's 3 sides. This was a really early version. Still fun, still functional. You just squeeze it and you can put items in there. I made a pin cushion out of acorns. I don't know if it's really period, but we're sure enjoying them. Really easy to make. I have the pattern for those. It's a round top and a kind of a little triangular shape and a little bead that pulls up the center, and then you make a little acorn shape. You can probably see the shape a little bit better on this, but that pattern will be coming also. These are a couple of make-do pin cushions. This one in the shape of a pear, obviously, and the pattern is not what you think it would be. I didn't make it. I made it pear shape, but then you can't be round down here, so it kind of goes straight. You can kind of see. So we'll share that pattern with you also. And for the top, these are kind of hard to make any other way. I took an apple stem, and pear stems just don't work. I recently looked at pears and I thought, nope, that will never work. So I'm going to continue to use an apple stem. Obviously well used. These make-dos are from old glass. This one's a candlestick holder. I think this probably is too. I think all of these are. And this is probably my favorite thing that I have here, besides my box. And this is a concept chatelaine, and it has a little bit of everything on here. It has my acorn, it has my scissors, it has a little leather tip to protect your scissors and yourself, and we can show you how to make that. It has a tape measure that's period, that's stamped on one side with inches and the other side with nails. We can explain that later, or maybe I'll explain it now. They used to do measurements by nails, which were 2 1/4 inches long, the square ones that the blacksmiths would make, and that was a measure of long ago. And if you want to learn more about that, go to Google Books Advanced and look up Workwoman's Guide. Many of those old patterns from the early to mid 1800s use nails as measures. This is also a clamshell, and this is just 3 sides. And inside there are more winders and things I don't really want people that comes to events to see. This is a seam ripper. I wrap this in leather. So if anybody does see in my sewing box, it's not quite obvious that I have something that is not period. Beeswax almost everywhere you go. If you can find a tin that you can put your beeswax in, that's always good, because some events can be warm. I have a noisy friend, but he's really cute, but I'm not going to show him because you're watching me. Anyway, this is beeswax, and if you put it in a tin, if it gets hot, then it won't melt and ruin your thing. So if you can find appropriate tin to put these in, that's a good idea. I don't have one for this, but make sure you keep it cool. And if you want to see how we use the beeswax, we would just run the beeswax through here. So that's the purpose of the beeswax and the cotton thread. I should show you this. This is really cool. I made this out of wool, and here's pockets here, and there's pockets in here. I lined it in black and realized that was kind of stupid because I couldn't see the pockets, so I just outlined them with floss, some heavy duty floss, and that really helps being able to see where the pockets are inside my bag. I can't think of anything I haven't shown you. I think I've shown you everything. And oh, here's one other thing. This is a marble bag, and I copied the pattern and made it to suit me. And so you can do pretty much with anything, or use this to do anything. I made one that was large for a bottle that I use as a beverage bottle, and it's nice because it's insulated. So it'll keep things warm and cool. And here's another clam case. I think that's all. I am going to sign off for now, and then we'll be making something later. Thank you.